Today we're going to be talking about taxes, and I know what you're thinking. Taxes are very complicated, and yes, they used to be very complicated for self-employed people or business owners, but I found a way to simplify dealing with taxes, dealing with write-offs, and I'm about to share all of those tips with you. And I'm going to share with you the app that I use to keep track of my write-offs and expenses and business income. And I don't have to keep up with papers or receipts or anything, and it will save you a lot of time. So let's go ahead and go to the computer so we can get started with today's lesson. So taxes, for me and for everyone I know, are a scary subject. So I made this slideshow with super pertinent information that will help you be a tax master. Well, maybe not a tax master, but you will completely understand how easy it is to deal with taxes as a self-employed business owner. Full disclaimer, I'm not a CPA, I'm not a tax advisor, I'm not a tax expert, I have no tax certifications. I hope that clears me legally. But I have learned a lot of things that have helped me tremendously on the area of taxes as a business owner. And I'm here to share those with you. I'm here to share this information with you in hopes of it solving a lot of your worries and issues within the tax world. So a brief note before we get started to people that don't understand self-employment taxes. As a business owner, you must report all business income or losses when you file taxes and pay the taxes on your profits or your net earnings for that year. When you work for another person or company, your taxes are automatically deducted from your paychecks and you receive a W-2 at the end of the year. Generally, when you file your taxes that way, you get back the amount of taxes that you overpaid throughout the year through your automatic deductions in the form of a tax return. That's why so many people, when they work for other companies or for anyone besides themselves, they're normally excited for tax time because they get taxes back. But as a self-employed business owner, we are always paying taxes. But since as a business owner, you will not have taxes automatically withheld from your income, you have to keep track of the money coming in and going out of your business so that when you file taxes, both the IRS and you will know what you need to pay. So the big difference is when you're working for another company like McDonald's or Wendy's or Walmart or whatever, you look forward to tax time because you're getting taxes back. The big difference here, when you're self-employed or as a business owner, we don't like tax time because we're generally paying a lot of money in taxes. And while we're always going to be stuck paying money in taxes, there are ways to lessen that tax burden. Why you should write off expenses. Keeping track of business-related expenses is vital to lessen the amount of money that you're going to have to pay the IRS when you file taxes. I have an example to break it down in layman's terms. Joe, he doesn't keep track of his business expenses, and he only reports the amount of money that his business received this year. He reports that he brought in $97,000 when he filed taxes. As a result, now Joe has to pay taxes on that full $97,000. That might not be fair because Joe may have had operational expenses that equated to 35 grand of that $97,000. But now, because he didn't keep up with all of those expenses, he has to pay taxes on the full $97,000 in revenue, not income. And that's horrible. Bill keeps track of his business expenses and his business income. He reports that he brought in $236,000, but he was able to write off $154,000 of that as business expenses. And now, as a result, Bill only has to pay taxes on the $82,000 that was his net income for the year. You don't only benefit as a business owner from what you took home as net income or your profit, you can benefit immensely on business expenses as well. And we're going to go over that here soon. Some of the things that you can write off as a business expense are home office deductions. So say you have a 2-bedroom home, but one of the bedrooms in that home solely functions as your office for work. Just like my situation, I have a 2-bedroom home. One of my bedrooms is my office. I don't do anything in this room but business. So as a result, I'm able to write off 15% of my home, my rent, 15% of my rent. As a result of me using this bedroom as an office, I get to write off as a business expense. Internet and phone bill deductions. So if you use your home internet to do business, you're able to write off a portion of that internet for business purposes on your taxes. For me, I'm able to write off 40% of my internet bill because I generally use my internet almost all the time, really, for business-related purposes. Now, for phone bill, if you have a dedicated business phone, that can be written off 100% as business expenses. Now, for my phone, I use my phone 50% of the time for business and 50% of the time for leisure. So I write off 50% of my phone bill. And that includes the cost of your phone. If you paid $1,000 for your phone, don't forget that is business-related expense as well. If you are self-employed, you have to pay for your health insurance, and luckily the government realizes that that should be write-offable. So whatever your health insurance premiums are, you get to file those premiums as tax deductions for your business. So don't forget to do that because health insurance can be extremely expensive. Meal deduction. This is huge. Anytime you're traveling anywhere to do business and you are away from home, for us photographers, that's every single day. So if you're, 30 miles away doing a real estate session and you got to stop and eat food, or you're getting food with a client to wow them, that's write-off. You can write that off as a business expense. So travel deduction. You are able to keep track of your mileage of everywhere you're going for business-related reasons. I think you get back 56 cents as a business expense for each mile that you travel. So like me today, I've got to travel to Abingdon and back for business. So round trip, that's 120 miles, right? For me. And as a result, about $65 of that is a write-off. So it's a humongous savings that we get as business owners being able to track mileage. Hotels also function as a write-off. So if you have to travel out of state or out of town and you're going to be there for a few days on business, you can write off those expenses for staying there. Any advertising, marketing you do, any ads you run, any billboards you buy, any direct mail you send out, any business cards, you know what advertising is, you know what marketing is. Any expenses related to advertising or marketing is a write-off. So it pays to advertise. That's what I was saying a minute ago when I said you don't only benefit from your net income or your profits from the year. Because if you juice up your ads and you run a lot of ads through the year, your business and your future profits are benefiting from those ads that you run. And all of those ads are tax deductible. So you get to write off those expenses for any marketing or any ads that you use for your business. Business insurance deduction. The next lesson of this course talks about why you need business insurance. Well, you get to write off the entire expense that you have to pay for your business insurance as a tax write-off. And that's fantastic. Any education. So if you go back to college, you take a course, you're taking this course right now, this is an education expense. You get to write off the cost of this course as a business expense. So this course basically now became free to you if you think about it that way. Along with any education, any books, anything that you use for learning for business-related purposes, that's a write-off. A huge one is equipment. Think about it. It was just earlier this year, I spent about $12,000 on camera gear and lenses. I know you do it too, so you can't be judging me for it. I know a lot of people that are spending $250,000 in photo and video equipment. So it's not only me that spends money on photo and video equipment sometimes. We all do. But the blessing is every single dollar you get to spend on that equipment, you get to write off and you do not have to pay taxes for. We're going to go over some pro tips at the end of this slideshow to explain how vital that is. And anything related to your business running, functioning, anything, you can write off on your taxes. A brief note on keeping up with income and write-offs. A long time ago, or if you have an accountant now, you would have to keep all of your receipts, paperwork, and invoices from your business to have proof of your income and expenses. Your accountant, or you if you didn't have one, would then have to manually input all of that paperwork into a Schedule C form on tax day to find out what you owe in taxes for the year, and then file your 1040 with the numbers that the Schedule C gave you. Oh geez, wait, I forgot to mention the entire process of keeping a mileage and trip log. That's a doozy. You would then have to file away your tax return and all of that paperwork in a safe location for the future in case the IRS were to audit you. But I found, and now I use QuickBooks Self Employed, and it simplifies that entire process. Spoiler alert, QuickBooks is like $15 a month and it saves a lot of time. Some accountants charge $300 or $400 a month. QuickBooks is the bee's knees. I've got some bullet points on why QuickBooks is the lifesaver when it comes to taxes. It tracks mileage automatically from your phone's GPS and categorizes trips with a button push or a swipe. I'm crapping you not. You can import expenses directly from your bank account and effortlessly sort business from personal. And you can create filters on there where it'll do it for you. So for me, for example, where I pay for Adobe Creative Cloud every single month, the first time it came out of my bank account, I was able to click it and say, this is a reoccurring business expense. Now, every month it automatically knows when it comes out to categorize it as a business expense. And it can do that with anything that automatically comes out of your bank and more. And I'm about to go over that. So anytime you have a meal, you have a hotel expense, you buy photo gear, video gear, anything, all you have to do is take a picture of that receipt and it'll automatically categorize those expenses for you. And also, anytime you buy things off of your debit card that has the bank linked to QuickBooks, it'll automatically categorize those for you as expenses if you tell it to, so you don't manually have to every time. As an example, anytime I'm buying something from B&H Photo Video, I already know it's a business expense and I just don't want to keep up with it. So I'm already using my debit card anyway on B&H. So anytime that happens and I buy something from B&H, QuickBooks already has that expense for me written off as a business expense before I even opened the app to see if it had it categorized. It was a jumble of words, but it automatically does that kind of stuff for you. You can also look at built-in reports to see how your business is doing through QuickBooks, and that's awesome. With the QuickBooks-TurboTax bundle, it can simplify your tax filing process. You can instantly transfer all the data that QuickBooks Self-Employed has in it from your year, all the expenses, the write-offs, the income, and import it into your tax return if you use TurboTax, so you don't even have to manually fill any of that information out. When you go to file your taxes with TurboTax, it's already in there as write-offs. Your Schedule C is already filled out. Your 1040 is a click or two to fill out, and you're done in less than 15 minutes. And that saves the most ginormous headache business owners have year after year with doing taxes. It simplifies the process. A couple of pro tips to lessen your tax burden. On December 1st, review your QuickBooks account to see what your expense-income ratio is. So say on December 1st, I get into QuickBooks and it says my profits for this year is $300,000 and my expenses is $50,000. I need to figure out what I can do to lessen my tax burden, because I'm not trying to basically throw away money. You get what I'm saying? When you're paying taxes, you're throwing that money away. You're never seeing it again. I would rather use as much of that money that I can afford to use instead of paying it for taxes. I would rather use it for things that could benefit my business in the following year. Does that make sense? I hope you're tracking with me because I'm about to drop a gem. So if you want to lessen that taxable income and bring that net profit margin down so you don't have to pay taxes on so much money, spend as much money as you possibly can on equipment that you think your business is going to need the next year. And then spend as much money as you possibly can. I swear I would yell it through the mic, but I don't want to do that to you. Spend as much money as you possibly can on marketing materials, ads, and software that you think you're going to need for the upcoming year for your business as well. Because as long as you do this up until the last day of December, it will work as a write-off for that current tax year. And that will lessen your tax burden when you go to file taxes. So I'll give you one more brief example of this in action. So say my revenue for the year is $250,000. Say my expenses for the year are $50,000. Well, then my net profits are $200,000. If I see that on December 1st, see if I don't find a way to spend $100,000 through the month of December on new equipment, new software, new anything I need, new ads, new marketing material, education material. I will spend as much money as I can, because if I can spend $100,000 on business-related marketing or equipment, then all I have to pay taxes on the following year is the leftover $100,000 that I profited. Now, as a result of that, yes, I just burned $100,000 of what I could have taken home, but I have a full suite of new gear and I have ads that are running that are going to make me more income for the following year anyway. And that will come back to me. What will not come back to me is if I pay $40,000 in taxes for that $100,000 that I could have spent on business expenses and not had to pay a dime in taxes on. I hope that makes sense to you. So now that I've went over this quick slideshow that explained taxes to you, explained how to make them work for you, I want to show you how I use QuickBooks on my phone and how you can use it too. And I want to show you how absolutely easy it is to use and how much of a headache it saves. Because if it wasn't for QuickBooks, I might not be in business for myself because I can't keep up with all of that paperwork and all of that information and worry about taxes, because that's a lot of stress, and stress doesn't do me well anyway. And like I said before, even though QuickBooks cost, $15-ish a month, it's basically free when you see it from the perspective that I do, as I get to write off that as a business expense, so I'm not paying the taxes out at the end of the year for it anyway. Does that make sense? All right, let's jump over onto the cell phone. Okay, so now I'm on my phone and I'm going to show you my screen on QuickBooks. Now, I use QuickBooks a little differently than how you're probably going to use QuickBooks. So the only income I allow QuickBooks to process for me is if I'm accepting cash payments. So any cash payments I accept, I put into QuickBooks, because where I use Cash App as my payment processor, they automatically print me off a form that I'm able to utilize when I file taxes. So I don't need QuickBooks for that for me. I do that separately. But I also use QuickBooks for all of my business expenses because it's so easy to deal with. So I'm going to show you how to use QuickBooks for a business expense, and I'm also going to show you how to use QuickBooks for mileage. So for a business expense, you'd go here to transactions. You hit the little plus button on the bottom right corner and you can add either income manually, so that's what I would do for cash payments, or an expense manually. So let's say, hypothetically, I'm adding an expense. You put the date on it, which, you could always do it day by day. That way you don't always have to keep up with anything. So for who did you pay? Let's say Burger King. For the amount, you'll look at your receipt and type in the amount that your total is. So let's say $10.50. And then right here for category, under business, click Mills. You can put a little note down there as well, and you always want to attach a receipt. So you'll hit the attach receipt button with the camera by it, and it'll show you a camera. You just take a picture of the receipt, click save, and then it will have that receipt, that transaction, and it'll add it to your expenses. So when you go to file taxes, it'll always be there. And if you ever get audited by the IRS, you can print off a document that has all of your expenses categorized in it, and it'll have with those expenses all of your receipts. And that's humongous, so you don't have to keep up with the receipts. I'm gonna cancel because obviously I'm not adding that. Mileage is very easy. You used to have to keep a manual logbook, track the miles, figure them out and everything, and write it down. With this, it's easy. You can do auto tracking, and you can see here, this is where it's tracked me going to different places, parking, stopping, and going. But for me, I just do manual because I like to have control. So if you're going to add a manual trip that you're going somewhere for business, you'll click the plus button, create trip, put the date. For me, it'll be today's date, start point, where you're starting from, click save, and where you're going to. So we can type in any address where we're going to. We'll just say we're going here. Click save. You can see here, it'll calculate the mileage for you. You click business, either meeting with client or photo shoot. Click save, and it'll automatically add that trip for you. And it's easy. It is so easy to do. If you do use QuickBooks for all of your expenses and all of your income, you can click this really cool thing that says see trends, and it'll make you a graph to show you what your business is looking like, and you can see if you're growing or not looking so good for a month. It's absolutely crazy, the technology that this has. And for this ability, I wish I did solely use QuickBooks, but I'm okay with just utilizing it to keep track of all of my receipts and expenses. I hope you found value in this lesson, and I hope this has made your life way less stressful when it comes to taxes.